Hi there, welcome to my allotment on a very, very chilly December day. We've had a freezing fog all morning, but I think the sun is starting to break through, and immediately you get a slightly warmer hue to everything, and it cheers me right up. I'm sitting here thinking about what this video will be, and I think it will mainly be winter harvests. What I'm harvesting right now on the plot. There's a few things I need to lift, and there'll also be a few jobs, a few projects that I'm working on during winter now, getting ready for the next season. I haven't been keeping up with my allotment tours since getting into a good groove during the summer, and I'm really regretting it now. So I'm gonna do a bit of a walkthrough possibly, but it won't be very long because there's not much growing at the moment. But there's a few things. There's always a few things in a well-kept allotment. This time last year I didn't have much going on at the plot. I think I planted my broad beans and garlic around the 1st of January. So everything else was just dormant on the plot. The weeds had been left to grow since late summer, and it was just a nightmare. My daughter was just turned 1, and I had just not been able to keep on top of things. This year is so much more prepared for the next season. But even if I was at that position this time last year, 2020 was a great growing success on my plot. Whatever else happened in the world, or maybe because of whatever else happened in the world, I had a lot of time to spend here. And I was furloughed, there was the lockdown, and I managed to get a few big jobs done that I had dreamed about but never really thought I could actually get around to doing. I created a whole new growing area, and that was a godsend because I sowed so many seeds, so many different types of vegetables that I grew, and that space really came in handy. And it's sort of similar to the project I'm doing now. I'm getting rid of some of my grassy paths I have between my no-dig beds. It's a longer term project. I don't have the same resources as I had during my previous bed expansion, where I had a mound of topsoil from our garden that I could just use as a mulch. This time I'm gonna have to resort to my old friend, the black plastic polythene mulch. I still have the plastic left over from when I started my no-dig allotment, so I'm reusing that, which I'm happy about. It hasn't kept as well as I would have hoped. It's been outside, and I guess over time the UV from the sunlight will break down that kind of plastic, so it is very brittle. But I can double up and it still works. So if it gets a bit sunnier, I'm hoping I can take this big coat off and get to work. But while I wait for the sun to come out properly, maybe I'll start on a walkthrough of the plot and see where we're up to at the moment. Just gonna finish my tea first. So maybe we can just start down here by the greenhouse. I have a very small greenhouse. It's 6 by 6 foot. It's a little square, or cube I should say. And it is really too small for all the tomatoes I want to grow next year. Not to mention all the chilies and all the aubergines and all the peppers and everything. So I actually went and bought another secondhand greenhouse on Facebook Marketplace, I think it was. And this one is 10 by 6. It would then, if I'm keeping both, need to go over here, right next to the miniature trees, but I don't think you can see that, but it's on a slope, and all this plot is on a slope. So when we put this greenhouse in, my partner kindly dug out a flat surface to put it on, and the same thing would need to be done here. So it would need to be cut into this quite deep at the back, and then it would probably be like a step up into it. Yep, so that's the plan. Have one large greenhouse here and then keep the little smaller one there. But I'm not 100% determined on that yet. Oh, there's a little robin there. I don't know if you can see him. Might need to break the water, the frozen water there for him, so you can have a drink. So there's a few robins that live in this hedgerow right behind my plot. So they just live along this hedgerow, which is pretty cool. They spend a lot of time with me. So I thought we'd start at the new project I completed this year. It is a bed extension. So it used to be 9 little plots of just no dig, surrounded by grassy paths, and it just was not working. They were so small that they were just being invaded. So I extended it to 4, I think they're 1.2 meter beds with 30 centimeter paths in between. And at the back, at the very end there, is a big pile of the topsoil from our garden. So I managed to mulch with that. Cardboard first, and then mulch quite deep with that. And then because it was locked down, all I could find was this horrible green waste compost I could bulk buy online, and it came with like lots of plastic and stuff in it. But yeah, you know, I had to sieve it and look for pieces of horrible crap. I think I found an old battery as well. But it did work, and it gave me lots of growing space. So the things under the mesh have been doing quite well, though there's been some slug damage. And I think there are also flea beetle damage on the pak choi, which I didn't think they were active at this time of year. And those are the Calibres, which I'm excited about. So we suffered really badly with Allium leaf miner on my allotments this year. It affected my garlic to some extent, and almost all the onions and shallots, and it just decimated the leeks. So I've planted quite a lot of garlic in October. So I really like growing garlic, so yeah, I won't be defeated. So this year everything is going to be covered in mesh. All allium's going to be covered in mesh. And a lot of the garlic that I've planted have come up, including elephant garlic. But yes, they are covered in white little tents. So this is what it looks like. Doesn't look very pretty. Let's see if we can see anything underneath here. So there was sweet corn growing here earlier. Oh, it's all stiff. So I've left the stumps in for the wildlife, and I just planted the garlic in between. And there's quite a lot going all the way up there. And I have another bed of garlic as well, where I interplanted them in my asparagus. And that's a new one to me. At the other end of this, I've got some turnips growing, and I'm hoping that they will probably start cropping in early spring. And then I have some salad onion that just did not like it, and I'm trialing some coriander and parsley. Coriander seems to be doing okay, parsley maybe not so much. So I love growing brassicas, and I invested in some water piping this year to make these fancy looking brassica cages, and that part worked really well. But to cover them, I went for the budget option of getting scaffold netting, which work exceptionally well against the cabbage white butterfly, but it does not keep aphids out. So these are the sprouts, sown in June, and obviously been picking quite a few for Christmas as well. And they've been doing alright, but they have been infested with something. So I don't know what these black spots are, but they definitely had signs of the aphids on these, and I think that will mean that they won't keep growing, they won't keep producing. And the other issue I had was that all that rain we had sat on the main sprout, the top sprout that keeps producing, keeps it growing, and it actually rotted. So I had to cut them off. You know, they should be looking like this, right? All pretty gorgeous. But 2 of them I've had to cut off. That's a shame. So we won't have as long a season of sprouts, but that's okay. So these are the calets. I've got 2 miniature plants here, one absolutely tiny and then 2 tall ones, and they've all been affected by the mealy bug aphid. They are very pretty though. Some ice on them here, and these will probably be quite ready soon to pick. But they are infested, and I'm just hoping that the colder weather will help kill them off. So these are the mealy bug aphid, and they create like a waterproof cover for themselves. So they're very hard to get rid of. What you can do is squish them, spraying them with water or soapy water won't work because it'll just bounce off their backs like geese, I should say. And these ones, I mean, almost all the top leaves, yeah, it just keeps falling off. So I don't know if they're gonna actually produce anything, but you know, the calet is here, so maybe they will open up. We'll see. I'm keeping them in. But yeah, not the greatest success with these, but I know what the problem is, and that is the scaffold netting. I need to use the mesh that I've purchased for next year for all my brassica beds, and that should hopefully sort it out. Got some Savoy cabbages in here, and they're looking a bit small, but how gorgeous are these? They were just divine. So in addition to the regular garlic, I'm also growing elephant garlic this year, and it's the first time doing it, and I'm pretty happy they've all come up. So I ordered some for last season, but I think they ran out, so I completely forgot about it when they didn't turn up. I'm like, well, so they came as a surprise this season in October. So and by then I've already ordered some more, so I've actually planted, I think, 9 cloves. Yeah, 6. I ordered 6 originally, and then I ordered another 3 this year. So yes, I've got a lot of elephant garlic growing, and I'm pretty excited about them. They're more of a they're more related to the leeks, so I'm definitely cover them in mesh. So they're all here growing under. Next to them, I actually sowed some carrots. Oh my god! It's actually come up. Where is it? Can you actually see it? No, you can't. Oh god, I can't see it on the camera. Oh, there it is. Yeah. Well, it's definitely not something I normally do, but that is a variety called Amsterdam forcing, and it is for growing from really early spring or really late in the season. Like it did say on the packet, sowing up to November. So I was like, well, carrots is one of those seeds that don't last very long, so I didn't want to use them the next season. I had great success with sowing them from February, March. You need to put fleece on them for them to germinate, and like here I've got fleece on them, but they will germinate when other carrots will just not do anything. So I thought I might as well just put them in, because I'm not going to use this packet next season. I had already bought a new one, and I didn't realize how many I had left, so I just plunked them in, and here you go. We'll see if they actually come to anything, but yeah, it looks like there's quite a few. So in a more recent brassica bed, so this is one I planted up quite late because it contains the purple sprouting broccoli, which are for obviously spring cropping. So they went out a bit later than the sprout bed, and they've got the same kind of covering but no infestation. even though I've got kale in here and other things that were completely decimated in other beds. So I don't know if that's the reason that they were put in here later, and they just have not been hit as bad. So far, so good. I mean, most people with allotments absolutely love growing purple sprouting broccoli. It's quite an expensive crop to buy, and but it is a real investment one. So you're waiting for the first big one to come in the center, just like a normal calabrese, and then you cut that, and then that stimulates the side shooting. So I have 4 plants. 2 of them are quite small. What didn't do really well for me this year was my soft fruit patch, or part of. The strawberries didn't do very well. The raspberries, summer fruiting raspberries, and the tayberry was just awful. And they're still looking awful. I don't know what's going on. The autumn fruiting raspberries that I planted this season have done really well. But I got barely any black currants, red currants. All the fruit fell off the cherry bush, all the fruit fell off the plum tree, the apple tree, the pear. It was just a disaster. I got no fruit whatsoever, almost, apart from a few strawberries and quite a few autumn fruiting raspberries, to be fair. But I got, I think like 2 blueberries. So, and it's not birds. It's just that there wasn't any fruit because I covered them all. But yeah. So the project I'm working on this winter is to get rid of grassy paths I have between my original no-dig beds. When I designed them, I created the paths really wide because I have such a large space. I thought that was the best thing, and then I kept them as grass, and that's just a nightmare because of slugs, because of invading weeds, and basically around the edge of my beds I can't grow anything because the grass roots dig in underneath it and steal any water, any nutrients. So basically it severely limits the growing space. So that's what I'm doing for winter. Again, you probably can't appreciate it, but it is on a slope down that corner, and I've got these black no-dig beds here with the grass in between. So one of the paths I've already mulched, and I need to continue with the other grassy paths, and it's quite a large job. It does require some time, but winter is a good time to do it, and yeah, I'm hoping it will look pretty good when it's done. So the plan is to change the orientation because of the slope. I want to have the beds running downhill, which will make it easier to mulch, easier to water. Everything will run down it rather than off the bed. And also I am extending the back end of each of the beds because I want to plant up some perennial vegetables like artichoke, and I don't want them to steal growing space, so I'm extending here because at the end there already is a rhubarb patch. So I thought, why not just create a perennial piece of growing space here. So currently in the beds I've got a few things growing. So at the top here is a lonely Violeta cauliflower. It was a spare seedling I had, and because it was on its own, I gave it its own little mesh cover, and it's worked really well to keep him aphid free. You can't see it, but there's parsnips here, and I need to lift them now because I noticed some canker on some of them. Because they've got clay soil and it's quite wet, they're prone to it. And I also noticed that because of the canker, the carrot root fly got in, which is a bit of a nightmare. So I'm going to lift those, and yeah, we'll see what we've got. And then here I've got some kohlrabi. I need to harvest some of them, and I've got some calibres. I need to get some of them harvested as well, and also some swede. And I did take the mesh off these because the top of the calibres was touching the mesh, and because of the rain and because of the freezing, it sort of damaged the top head. So I thought, oh, I'll just take the mesh off. There's not many birds about. and that was obviously a mistake. They the little mini deer we have around Oxfordshire called muntjacs, they were introduced by the Victorians from China, I think. They've become a bit of a pest around here, but basically they're very cute and I don't mind them, but when they come onto my plot and take a big chunk out of my broccoli heads, you know, I'm not that happy. So basically I had to put the mesh back on. Well, there you go. Hopefully it'll grow back. In this bed I've got some parsley growing. It's dormant now, but it'll come back soon. And I've got some turnips. They were multi-sown. Got some pink, purple top ones and some white ones. And got some carrots. I need to get some of them out, I think. I don't know how long they will last in this cold. And then I've got some black turnips, some more coriander, I think that is, and maybe some parsley as well, and then some beetroot and chard. The chard was also munched by the muntjacs. They will recover, but I made this muntjac proof system so they have a chance to grow back. But yeah, so they basically came on and munched on everything. And this is just an empty bed that I've just gone over with my Christmas present, which is a stirrup hoe. It's really sharp and it took like no time at all to just weed this. It basically just scratches the top layer and gets rid of any weeds that have been germinating. It's actually quite surprising how much grows during the winter. There's quite a lot of the weeds, perennial weeds, that disappear, like bindweed you don't really see, but the roots are still there getting ready for spring. But there are some other weeds that take the opportunity if it's mild enough during the winter and just keep growing. So it's good to, before I mulch, I usually go over the bed and then put some mulch on top, and then I'll be ready to do it again in spring when the seeds, any seeds in the compost or anything dormant, has come alive again. So this year I grew 2 crown prince squash in my asparagus bed, and I had quite good success. I'd lost 2 crowns of asparagus, and it was just great companion planting. So my asparagus bed is still quite young. It's only coming into its 3rd year now, so they're not too big, the crowns. So I thought, to save on space again, I would plant a row of garlic in between the crowns. I've planted my crowns quite far apart with the aim of getting these really big crowns from 5 years on. So there's still quite a lot of empty space there. And so far the garlic's doing really well. Again, they're covered in mesh, and I've got quite a lot of fungi growing here, which is a good sign. But yeah, so the garlics run down the center, and even though it's very frosty, they're doing quite well. But yeah, there's a lot of fungi here. But that's a good sign of micellar activity in the soil, so that's what you want to see. But like a lot of pests in 2020, because of the mild winter, you know, asparagus beetle was bad, Allium leaf miner was bad, slugs wasn't too bad, mainly because we had such a dry spring. But the Allium leaf miner and the asparagus beetle was really bad. But one I'm forgetting is the leatherback. So it's a little grub that lives sort of in the soil and eat plant roots, especially my lettuce. All of a sudden the lettuce just goes limp, and then you dig around in the earth underneath there and it's just, you find this little grub and it's basically just taking all the roots away. So the cold weather will help with that, hopefully. But yeah, otherwise there's nothing else you can do. You just plant more lettuce than you need. They don't usually take all of them, thankfully. So inside my greenhouse this winter I've got some greens growing, which are pretty exciting, and I've also got a lot of my sweet peas that I sowed in October. So it's actually quite full, and I've also got my fig tree. So my fig tree didn't give me any figs this year because I stupidly moved it from the protected site by the house last year down to the plot way too early, and all the buds froze off. So I'm keeping it in here for as long as possible for next season, and hopefully that should be fine. But yes, I've got all my Sweet peas, some of them have been eaten by slugs, but they are coming back and I don't even have to pinch them out. And the germination has been good, apart from these two down the end here. That's turquoise lagoon, and this one I can't remember what it's called. Black Knight. But you win some, you lose some. And I've got some forget-me-nots. I've also got some rocket and some lamb's lettuce, which my seedlings failed, so I just sowed some more seeds, but they haven't done much. They might give me an early spring crop, possibly. I've also got some artichokes and a rhubarb, which is doing really badly because I dropped it. But they're still alive. Hopefully one of those seedlings will be enough. But otherwise, yeah, I've got some spring onions that are growing better than the ones outside. And then I've got some lettuces, some claytonia, some mustard, some spinach. And over there some coriander that's doing really well. And then I've got some more over here and some Asian greens that have been munched by both slugs. There's nothing much left on this one. There's pak choy there, and also the flea beetle has got in here. You can see the little telltale holes on the leaves. But I'm pretty excited for some of the Asian greens. So these are broccoli rabe, which is you eat the flowering shoots just like regular broccoli. But yes, I'm pretty excited for what's going on in here. It's my first year doing winter growing of lettuces and it's going really well. So you obviously don't get as much of a lettuce glut like you do during the spring, summer, but there's enough, and you don't eat as much lettuce, I guess, during the winter anyway. So it's good enough for me, and now I can see the sun is starting to come out and it's really brightening up the plot. So I was attempting to film getting all the parsnips, the rest of the parsnips out of the ground, but I hadn't pressed record. But anyway, I managed to get them out. It's a bit of a selection. There's big ones, there's small ones, and there's varying degrees of damage. So basically canker makes a weakness for, I think, the carrot root fly to get in, and there's actually one helpfully sticking out. Can you see that? I mean, it's just focusing on me now. You see that little worm sticking out? So all this pale brown on them is where the carrot root fly is going. So it can be, in my experience, there's varying degrees of depth on the damage. So this one, there'll probably be quite a lot to eat on this one still, but they won't keep. And this one is all brown and is just ready for the bin, basically. But there's a few there, but I guess we're gonna have to eat roasted parsnips for a while. What I could do is clean them up, chop them up and freeze them, or cook them and freeze them and keep them that way, but I can't just store them like this, which is a shame. Well, it's always next year, eh? Anyway, that's it from the allotment this December. I hope you've enjoyed watching me harvest some winter veg and get on with some jobs around the plot. It's getting chilly again now, so I think I'm going to go inside and edit this monster of a video for you. Have a great time, and I'll see you in my next upload.